News Radio 1000 KTOK. I'm Gwin Faulconer-Lippert. Perhaps you have been following, especially if you listen to this program, the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation. And here with me tonight again is Randy Carter. He is the Director of Strategic Communications for that organization. He is also affiliated with Pike Off OTA and No More Turnpikes because for a couple of years now, we have been following a program called Access Oklahoma, in which the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority and the Oklahoma Department of Transportation are looking into building 3 new turnpikes through Cleveland County. Randy Carter joins me this evening because since the last time he and I spoke, the Oklahoma Supreme Court made a ruling. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Randy. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday evening.
Thanks for having me. Yes, they issued what we call an extremely disappointing ruling, and I believe it was 6-3 or 5-3. Anyway, it was not a unanimous decision by the Oklahoma Supreme Court, and the dissenting opinions are quite good. I'll just say it that way. But the Oklahoma Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority in validating their request for bonds. They still have to go before the Council on Bond Oversight and a few other hoops that they have to jump through. But this was a big hoop and quite frankly, very, very disappointing. It's kind of tied in with also with the open meetings case that was ruled in our favor against the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority by Judge Olson in Cleveland County, and then later overturned by the Oklahoma Supreme Court. And when that happened, I was obviously very disappointed. And it really didn't seem like justice was served. It really didn't pass the smell test to me based on what all I knew about the case. And anyway, the point the point is not talking about the Oklahoma meetings. Of course, the open meetings violation was very significant, and it really was quite a significant case in the way they went about doing that. So we were quite disappointed. Justice Winch,
because the open meetings was ruled in favor of the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation twice, I believe. What was the justification by the Oklahoma Supreme Court to overturn that?
I don't know. They just said they didn't do it. Basically, they said in their ruling, they said they didn't violate the Open Meetings Act. And I don't see how it's possible if they got to that conclusion based on hearing some of the depositions and Stan Ward and his team's case. It was to me it was almost open and close. I mean, it was a slam dunk case, and the Supreme Court's overturning that ruling. To me, it didn't pass the smell test. It really disappointed me in the state of our justice system, the state of Oklahoma's justice system. It seemed to be a complete failure of interpreting the law as it should be. Of course, I'm obviously biased, but with that said, we're still quite disappointed.
So, but you're not going to take this lying down. I mean,
no.
Well, and then let me introduce one more thing before we launch off. The Bureau of Land Management, correct?
The Federal Bureau of Reclamation.
Correct.
Yes.
Did rule against the Turnpike Authority, saying they could not put a turnpike through the Lake Thunderbird watershed, correct?
Specifically, what they said is they denied the Turnpike Authority's request or application to cross the Bureau of Reclamation. And again, the Bureau of Reclamation owns Lake Thunderbird, to cross their what's called fee title land. And they denied their application to do that. So, however, in the denial, they said that the Turnpike Authority could reapply, and we assumed that they might go about doing that. We also assumed that they might put pressure on our federal delegation to put pressure on the Bureau of Reclamation to approve that application. So, that's an issue that's still in the forefront of our minds. but they denied them the southern extension and part of the east-west connector as well, cross the fee title land. And also it would cross what the Bureau of Reclamation's easements. And I personally don't know specifically if their denial was just a denial to cross the fee title lands or to cross the fee title lands and the easements. That's, I think, the subject of interpretation. But, that has put a stop to their plans at this point. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to go back and try to influence the Bureau of Reclamation to change their minds. And we don't know, but we're certainly going to work to keep their minds from being changed, doing everything we can morally, ethically, and legally to do that.
So meanwhile, the ODOT and OTA came out and said, okay, until the Supreme Court rules, we are stopping all projects. And so they stopped everything. And then after the Supreme Court ruled, they said, it's on. We're doing it. So we can finish Tulsa. We can finish, all these other things.
Yeah, and which we have no problem with at all. Our main problem, our only problem, is with the three routes that are proposed to devastate Cleveland County. More power to them if they want to widen the Turner and do all those other things. That's great. I mean, if you've ever driven the Turner Turnpike and gotten behind trucks coming from Tulsa back to Oklahoma City, it can be a mess.
Well, and in all fairness, that 3-lane part, yes, is nicer than the 2-lane part. The 4-lane versus the 6 or 8 or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, so what is the plan for the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation? What is your next move?
Well, we are going to continue to work with the legislature to try to put some limits on the Turnpike Authority. We actually were quite successful last spring in getting a bill passed that changes the makeup of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. It took away the governor. The governor still has it, and it will change November 1st when this law takes effect. The governor has all 6 appointments to the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority Board. The bill that we got passed changed that to where the Speaker of the House has 2 and the President Pro Tem of the Senate has 2, and the governor will maintain 2 of those appointments. So that will give a little bit more variety to the members of the Turnpike Authority Board, that they won't just be in there doing the bidding of the governor, which is what it appears they're doing at this point. That's our assessment. It's a matter of opinion. But that will certainly give the Turnpike Authority Board a little more open-mindedness, I guess, on these projects. So,
in the meantime, is there anything you can do to stop the continuation of the 3 projects? I mean, the response I saw was, oh, you all just calm down. It's not going to happen for 15 years anyway, Yeah.
I was at the Turnpike Authority meeting. Actually, I was at the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority meeting back at the beginning of August, when that's where we heard the announcement that the Supreme Court had ruled. And one of the people there said, "Well, it's not going to happen for at least 7 or 8 years." And I'm like, "Well, what? You're hoping I'm going to be dead by then?"
I'm told that's a strategy. I don't like it, but I'm told that. Yes.
We are of a certain age that we've got less life left than what we've probably spent. So that's just a fact of life. So anyway, no, we're still and technically the Supreme Court, the open meetings case and the bond validation case that the Supreme Court ruled against us, they are still not closed technically, because we have the right to apply for a rehearing. And I don't know if you saw Stan Ward, the lead attorney in the open meetings case, filed some paperwork asking for Judge Winchester to recuse himself. And Winchester happens to be married to Governor Stitt's Secretary of Commerce, who has been a big proponent of turnpikes for many, many years, from what I've been able to gather and see, and that just doesn't seem to be. I don't know. I think if there's any interest, personally, like that a justice should recuse himself from a case that involves something that they're so close to with their spouse.
Yes, but I've also heard people say, but that decision was 6-3. So then if you get him to recuse himself, then it goes to, 5-3, and you still haven't won.
We found that doesn't. In a rehearing, they will rehear the case, and then they'll make another judgment if they accept the rehearing motion, the way I understand it. And Justice Winchester has been writing opinions, from what I've been able to see, writing opinions in favor of the Turnpike Authority for quite some time, and seems to have some influence on the other justices. I don't know. There were 3 dissenters on that Supreme Court ruling, and one of the dissenters wrote, whatever you call it,
I think it's the opposing opinion or something like that. Yeah.
Yes, the dissenting opinion. Yeah, they wrote a dissenting opinion, and basically they said that the majority's decision confers on the OTA incredibly broad discretion without any cognizable limits. Says the OTA is apparently free to blatantly disregard the legislature's directives with respects to routes and funding. I mean, really, they've given the Turnpike Authority, the legislature has no. I mean, the laws of the land have no bearing on the Turnpike Authority anymore as a result of this rubber stamp ruling in favor of the Turnpike Authority.
Randy Carter is my guest. He is the Strategic Communications Director for the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation. We're talking about Access Oklahoma, and the legal battles will continue more when we come back. You're listening to 1000 KTOK. News Radio 1000 KTOK. Gwin Faulconer-Lippert following up with Randy Carter, who is Director of Strategic Communications for Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation. You can go to their various sites, such as Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation, Pike off OTA, No More Turnpikes on Facebook, and see many of the documents that we are talking about. And Randy, I was just reading where one of the things that Susan Winchester has spoken so proudly about was she wanted to make our highways and turnpikes be more productive, have higher productivities, I think was the exact quote. So in your case, I mean, you say you like turnpikes, you just don't like them coming through your home. And this goes back to how this was handled from the very beginning, that for people that don't know this story, that you and others learned about these 3 turnpikes through Cleveland County by, reading the paper or seeing a story or hearing a news report or seeing the governor brag about it or whatever?
I think I saw something on Facebook, and that's interesting. They're trying that again, because back in the 90s, they tried to bring a major highway through East Norman as well, and
Neil McCaleb said, if the people don't want it, we don't need it.
That's right. That basically was what the conclusion was, and yet they are trying it again. There's a number of the same players that are back on the team that tried to get that through back in the 90s, as I understand it.
Well, and part of the problem is that, as I understand it, based on what you all have discovered, is the turnpikes are not being the prosperous moneymaker that they claim to be. And
no, not at all.
And so they are in financial problems. And what do? I guess it's like getting another credit card. to build another turnpike is like getting another credit card so that they can cover the bond payments and things like that they need to make.
That is true. And one of the things that was instituted many years ago is what they call cross-pledging, which means that they can take revenues from one turnpike and use it to pay off the bonds of another turnpike. But interestingly enough, when the Turner Turnpike first went in, which was the first turnpike in Oklahoma, they promised the people that when those bonds were paid off, that turnpike would be turned back over as a free road to the public. And surprisingly enough, what is that, 70 years later? Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah.
That was back in the early 50s.
Yes.
There are still outstanding bonds on the Turner Turnpike. I seem to think that that's probably paid for itself many times over the years. But that's been their MO for quite some time. They build these turnpikes. They issue bonds. There's a lot of people that make a lot of money off of bonds. And then the turnpikes that they used to build those, that were built with those bonds, don't generate enough revenue to pay those bonds off. In fact, interestingly enough, we've been aware that recently they were very proud of their bond payments, but when we looked at it, they were only paying interest on some of their bonds, and I don't remember, a junior something or another. I don't know all the details, but it was quite obvious. And then it appears that they made another bond issuance to pay off the bonds that they were paying interest only on, and started all over again. So, but specifically, the Kickapoo Turnpike, which is in eastern Oklahoma County, has never generated the revenue that was predicted in a study. And interestingly enough, the Turnpike Authority is not supposed to build a turnpike, as I understand it, according to their very own trust agreement. They're not supposed to build a turnpike until these projections are in and their studies are done. Well, as I understand it, the study to justify the Kickapoo Turnpike didn't come in until the turnpike was actually open.
Open, like so, driving on?
Yes, as I understand it. It was not finished and delivered before they started construction.
And
so
then, and isn't it even the case with the Kickapoo that the legislature never voted on it?
As I understand it, that turnpike has never been approved by the Oklahoma legislature. Which
so
is
who approved that? Where they could get that money and do that?
According to the website, according to Pike Pass, which is the Turnpike Authority's website, that was approved by the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. And they may have changed that since we've called it to people's attention. I don't know. I haven't gone back and looked at it in a while. But it was really it was really an eye opener. All the other turnpikes listed in their bio that they were approved by the Oklahoma State Legislature, and only the Kickapoo, as I recall, it stated that it was approved by the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority.
Well, let me set you up. We have to pause for Fox News, but when we come back, Randy Carter's going to tell us about some other things that they have discovered about how the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority operates, and how, if you're in the path of the turnpike, what you can expect for them to try to take your property. So hold on. Randy Carter is the Director of Strategic Communications. I'm Gwin Faulconer-Lippert. You're listening to 1000 KTOK. The program is called Access Oklahoma. I have dubbed it Excess Oklahoma. Do we really need 3 new turnpikes in Cleveland County? That is the small question. The larger question is, why is the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority and the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, why are they under the rule of the same person, and what are they trying to accomplish? The Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation are not taking this lying down. They have many great places where you can read their point of view. One is Pike Off OTA, and the other one is No More Turnpikes on Facebook. And it will help you understand why we are in distress about this. Randy Carter, the Director of Strategic Communications, is here. And Randy, as you all started to ask questions and perhaps even talk back to the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, what happened?
Well, it appears that we have become victims of what one of my cohorts calls political spying, and he goes on to talk about why that is wrong. But it appears that in a request for information, and Amy Serrato requested information from the governor's office dealing with the turnpikes and their communication and all that business. I don't remember the exact terminology she used to request these records, but come to find out, the governor's office released information showing that they had received information from the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, where the Turnpike Authority had hired a PR agency to gather information on what they call opponents of the Turnpike. And as I'm sure you remember from another records request, we found out that the Turnpike Authority was buying up, through a contractor, but was buying up website names that might be used by people who will be opposing the Turnpike. And that just that didn't sit too well with us, and it didn't make them look very good at all either. They were trying to suppress dissent and suppress anything that somebody might say or do about the Turnpike, and I think that's just wrong. As a public institution, we citizens have a right to express our opinion and bring issues to the Turnpike Authority or any other state agency. And I believe that's one of the things that the legislature recently set up the name just left me. The office that released all the Swadley's information. Sorry, I can't think of the name of that.
Was that the Department of Commerce or?
No.
Oh,
it was.
What is that?
Legislative.
Yes.
Legislative office.
It's Loft. Yes.
Yeah, Loft. That's
of something transparency. Of full transparency, yes.
Legislative Office of Financial Transparency. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I don't know why that left me, but that's it. Yes, they revealed all that information about Swadley's, and we're finding out quite a few things that we weren't too happy about. In the report that was released by the governor's office, which was made public by the governor's office, we were sharing that with the media and the public, but in the documents, and it was only for a short period of time. I believe it was through August of 22. It was not, and it took them a long time to get it to us. But there were 321 separate incidences of personally identifiable information that were compromised, and it occurred when.
So like Social Security numbers, or what do you, when you?
No, just anything that is personally identifiable to an individual. That is against Oklahoma's constitutional right to privacy clause, and it has something to do with the law of torts as well. They're appropriating, engaging in the unauthorized use of over 50 persons' names, photographs, likenesses, and words. Again, it's a little bit like the athletes now are able to sell their likeness and those things. It's a little bit in that sort of the privacy kind of thing, and it's basically against the law, and especially that it was used, and they paid for it. They did it with a contract through an agent. So
they paid people to create a list of dissenters? Is that what it is?
Yes. Yeah, that's the way I would interpret it. Yeah.
And that is against the Oklahoma Constitution. Is that right?
Well, it's the Supreme Court has said that it's against the law.
The Oklahoma Personal Privacy Protection Act is what I see here. Yes.
Yes, I believe that. I believe that is correct. Again, when I'm not an expert on all the nuances of the law, but they're basically, when somebody appropriates for their own use or benefit the name and likeness of another person, they are subject to liability for the invasion of that person's privacy.
Well, so how much are you going to charge them for using your name and likeness?
I really have no interest in pursuing anything like that. I just think that it's totally inappropriate. We have rights as citizens to exercise the First Amendment, to petition the government for redress of our grievances, and we certainly have.
But you didn't get to do that. They refused to let you all speak at the meeting, correct?
That is correct. They have not allowed us. We asked to speak at the meeting 1st of August, and they refused. They refused to allow us to have public comment, which they said. And I believe they've opened almost every meeting since the beginning of January. That says something to the effect, we allow public comment, but none is scheduled for this particular meeting. And again, we'd have to go back and look at the recording of the meetings and to the exact way they state that. But basically, I applied, and they said you had to apply 15 days in advance of the meeting to be put on the agenda to make public comment. And in their denial, I found this quite interesting. In their denial, they said, well, there was nothing on the agenda that was pertinent for public comment. But they don't release the agenda until about 24 hours before the meeting. So how would we know in any way, shape, or form what might be on the agenda that we would want to have public comment about 15 days in advance? So basically, it's a catch-22. Unless we happen to come up with a subject specifically 15 days in advance that happens to end up on the agenda later, they wouldn't approve us for public comment. So really, they in effect, they don't allow public comment.
They don't want to put their people, I guess, on notice that they have to listen to the citizens. Wow.
Well,
I did think of you when I was driving I-44 the other day, and I noticed that the Gilcrease Turnpike is there. You know, that was a big surprise for those people. I'll tell you what, I need to take one more break, but when we come back, I would like for you to tell us more about what you all plan to do next, if it's for public knowledge, and tell people how they can get involved if they would like to. I'm talking to Randy Carter. He is the Director of Strategic Communications for the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation. We're talking about 3 turnpikes that have been proposed to be built in Cleveland County. Yes, one county, 3 new turnpikes. Are you shaking your head? I'm Gwin Faulconer-Lippert. It's News Radio 1000 KTOK. News Radio 1000 KTOK, Gwin Faulconer-Lippert, talking to Randy Carter, Director of Strategic Communications for the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation. The topic, Access Oklahoma, a program of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority and the Oklahoma Department of Transportation. And it involves this particular part, 3 major turnpikes that have been proposed to be built through Cleveland County. So, Randy, where are the procedures, or what is the status of getting the Gettner Drummond involved and Cindy Bird? Did those all go away?
No. They're the audit. Attorney General Gettner Drummond has called for a full investigative audit of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, and that audit is going on now as we speak. I believe they're just getting started on it. That's a pretty big task, and it takes a lot of resources to get that going. And plus, the auditor probably had a lot of regular ordinary business auditing the other state agencies. And it's interesting that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority has never, in its 70-plus year history, ever been audited by the state auditor or anything other than a cursory audit that they pay somebody to come in and produce.
They pay someone. Interesting.
Well, yeah, they hire an accounting firm to do an audit. It's not near the extent that the state auditor will do, and we have reason to believe that there will be quite a few things discovered that will help our cause. And
are you all in talks with Loft for the financial transparency, or is that a totally different thing?
That has nothing to do. Loft would have nothing necessarily to do with the state auditor. I believe, though, that Loft could. Again, I'm not an expert here, but I know way more about this than I ever thought I would. Anyway,
are you ready to go to law school now?
It'd be a different kind of bar for me, wouldn't it? I believe that Loft could call attention to some things that are going on, and then call for an audit by the state auditor. So again, I don't know exactly how that works. I know they were heavily involved in the Swadley's the case recently that's been in the forefront of the news.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if Loft called for an audit, but I believe, again, that's not my subject matter, but I believe the auditor did do some auditing of it. Anyway, I can't speak as even mildly educated on that.
Well, I'm sure that you have seen other things in the news about the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, one of which what Plate Pay has lost, in quotes, lost money. I mean, are we supposed to feel sorry for the Turnpike Authority because they put in this new program called Plate Pay? So if you don't have a Pike pass, you can still drive on the turnpikes. They take a picture of your license plate, then they send you a bill in the mail. And as it turns out, as I read it, the paper tags, it does not read. Tribal tags, it cannot do the follow-up to bill the person. And if you're hauling a trailer behind you, it can't get a picture of your license tag to bill you. So Plate Pay has lost a lot of money. Do you think any of that's going to get involved with this?
I think that, from what I heard, and I believe it was at one of the Turnpike Authority meetings, Plate Pay has only been collecting about 50% of what is owed or what they billed. And
the plate is twice the amount of a turnpike tag. I mean, it charges you twice as much.
I'm not sure the exact ratio, but yes, it is more expensive than a Pike pass. They're wanting to encourage people to get a Pike pass.
Well, let me bring one other thing up. Okay, so let's say they go back to the Bureau of Reclamation, and the Bureau of Reclamation says, okay, move that turnpike 2 miles west, and then you can build it. That's not really the right answer for you, is it?
For me personally, it would relieve my personal property that is under the sword of Damocles right now. But from what all we've discovered, it's not a good solution to the situation.
It's
and
just
again,
shifting the grief 2 miles. You know, I mean, it's still going to be that heavily populated area. You know, they were claiming like 600 structures. It's going to get more intense and all that. So what is the answer here?
The answer, as far as we're concerned, is not to build the turnpikes through Cleveland County. I think they would be. It would make a lot more logical sense if they connected east of Lake Thunderbird, if indeed they had to go through. I've had this discussion with numerous people at numerous levels and all of this, and they say it's too many extra miles to go that way.
Someone suggested to me that they would then have to become directly involved with negotiations with Indian tribes. Is that true?
That's true.
That is
Yes.
true.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is, as I understand it, that would be, I believe, specifically absentee Shawnee land that is just east of Lake Thunderbird. And we know how well that the governor's been getting along with the Indian tribes here recently. So, but we feel like that there's an element of design, developer input that is wanting these turnpikes to go through the west side of the lake, the routes that they're proposing, and to convince the city of Norman to allow high density development in there. And we've seen some things that indicate that that might be a part of the process as well.
So if people would like to help the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
The best way is to go to pikeoffota.com. That is our parent organization, and Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation is a DBA of Pike Off OTA. And we have a place where you could donate, volunteer, get more information, spy on us, I guess. There's that would be the best place to go. Or if anybody knows me personally, want to get a hold of me, I'd be glad to share any information that I have, and encourage any help that you might be able to offer us. We would greatly appreciate that. This is a grassroots effort. All our people are volunteer. Well, we have legal fees that are continuing to mount, and so we would appreciate any contributions. And we're having a little fundraiser coming up. I believe it's September the 9th at the Diner in downtown Norman. They're going to give a portion of the proceeds to our cause. It's involved in one of the art walks that occur on a monthly basis in Norman. So we'd appreciate anybody coming in and getting involved in that. And just to get more information. Also, too, we would appreciate any input that somebody in other parts of the state, anybody in other parts of the state might have with their state legislator, senator, or state representative, to let them know how they feel about the turnpikes. I mean, please don't tell them you like them, but there are plenty of people that do. But we would appreciate any input that you might have with your legislator that is on our side with this issue. And I have found they do listen to their constituents. And of course, you want to be courteous and respectful and do it in a nice way.
Which you all do. You all are very respectful and mannerly. So I think that's just the way life should be in general, whether it has anything to do with the turnpike or the legislature in the first place. I mean, you get what you give, and I like to be nice to people because hopefully that's what I get back. I mean, it's not very nice to come in and tell me they're going to take my house, but I've tried to respond in kind, in a courteous and respectful way with my dissent and my disapproval of the project. And go ahead. Randy Carter is the Director of Strategic Communications. Again, go to pikeoffota.com. And thank you, Randy, for keeping me up on everything. I appreciate it.